Hi, it's Steve. In this video, we'd like to show you how to change the hot surface igniter in your gas range. We'll show you where the typical locations for the igniter would be, some tips on testing them, as well as how to replace them safely. If you're not sure whether the oven igniter is the cause of your problem, be sure to check out our other videos that show you how to troubleshoot a gas range where the oven doesn't heat. Now before we begin this repair, the first thing we'll need to do is to disconnect power to your range. So pull it far enough forward that you can unplug it or locate the electrical panel and turn off the appropriate breaker or remove the appropriate fuse. You will also want to turn off your gas supply, so locate the gas line and turn the shutoff valve to the off position. Now once we've done that, we're going to empty everything out of the oven, then remove the oven racks and the oven bottom. Now that we have the oven bottom out of the way, our next step will be to remove this heat shield or flame spreader that is located below it. There are typically screws that secure that to the oven frame. Because we have flame exposed to the bottom of that panel at all times, there's a good chance that there will be some soot on that, so you use caution when handling it. Now with the flame spreader removed, we now have access to our oven igniter. A hot surface igniter is always attached to the side of the burner tube right next to the input to that. That's to ensure that as the igniter heats up enough to open the bimetal safety valve, that as soon as gas enters that burner tube, the igniter is right there and hot enough to ignite that gas. Now before we attempt to remove that igniter, we'll want to determine where the wire harness connector is, whether we are able to disconnect it from above this panel or whether we need to go to the back of the range or below this panel to disconnect that harness. On this particular model, the harness is located below the floor of the oven cavity, so we'll need to pull a storage drawer out and disconnect the harness there. Now with the lower drawer removed, we now have access to the oven safety valve, broil burner safety valve, and more importantly, the connection to the igniter for that oven burner. So we'll need to disconnect that harness connector and then unplug it, and then we'll make sure that nothing will impede that harness as we pull it up through the opening in the bottom of the oven. Now with the harness connector for the igniter disconnected, we can then detach that igniter from the side of the burner. And what we found quite often is that the two screws that attach that igniter to the burner may have become stripped and are difficult to remove, or you don't have enough of an angle to access them with a screwdriver directly on the side of that burner tube. So another method is to take the whole burner with the igniter attached and lift that out so you can easily change out the igniter. So we'll lift that whole assembly out, and we can remove those two screws and swap out that igniter. So we'll lift off that igniter and discard it. So make sure we hold that securely in place as we attach the retaining screws. Now when we go to position the burner and igniter assembly back into the oven, we first of all want to thread that harness down through the opening, but we also want to ensure that when we install that venturi tube of the burner, that it sits firmly on top of the oven safety valve and that the orifice is fully inserted into that opening. So you'll have to monitor that through the storage drawer opening to verify that as you lower that burner into place, it sits right over top of that orifice and that the wire harness does not interfere with that in any way. Once we've determined that, we can reinstall the two mounting screws. And as you can see, we have a nice clear blue flame and our oven igniter is working properly. Thank you so much for watching. We hope the video was helpful to you. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss a thing.